If you're a frequent PNW Haunts and Homicides listener, you probably already know we're Birdie ambassadors.
We wanted to take a quick moment to tell you a little bit more about this awesome product.
Birdie is the modern personal safety alarm made for women by women.
In a situation where you feel threatened or unsafe, you can simply activate Birdie's loud siren and flashing light to create a diversion.
Birdie is perfect to carry anytime because the device is lightweight and comes in a variety of colors.
So important. Use our ambassador link and coupon code PNW Haunts and Homicides to receive 10% off your purchase. Like our social media handles, the coupon code is all spelled out, no special characters.
You can find the link and promo code in our show notes or PNW Haunts and Homicides link tree.
Have a safe ass day.
Okay. Ready? Okay.
Let's go. Hi, Cassie.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, creepy people.
Hello.
What show is this again?
PKW.
Oh, that reminds me. Do you remember when Amanda, she got confused and she thought it was, what was it, Pacific Southwest?
Yeah.
Troy was like, that doesn't exist.
I think it's so funny that's happened twice now with people mentioning us on
Oh, that's funny.
the pod. But I think
It's
it just
cute.
makes them talk about us more, so it's totally fine. We don't mind.
Well, and they're on the East Coast or, in the Midwest or whatever, so
They don't know.
the PNW just isn't as familiar a turn of phrase, but this is, in fact, PNW Haunts and Homicides.
Get ready.
Get ready.
So before we start the tarot reading, when I was editing the first episode, I was listening to the tarot card and the description, and it said this chariot pulled by mythical creatures.
Ooh.
And I was just like, it hit me. Like something hit me. And I was like, I need to pull this up in my tarot deck. So keep Brucey in mind.
Okay.
When you look at the chariot.
Oh, God. Stop it. Stop it right now.
Chariot pulled by mythical creatures sounds a lot like Santa Claus, don't it? Yeah.
Oh, my
Isn't
God.
that crazy?
We pulled the creepy Santa.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
If we were using your deck, I would have probably peed my pants.
We would have shat ourselves. Also, funny story, look at the card that popped up right underneath the chariot that I was looking for.
Give me a break.
It wasn't on the top. I was going through the deck.
It follows you around.
I was going through the deck looking for the chariot. I pulled it up and this card was underneath.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I don't. Okay.
Yeah, that Ace of Potions, it like you.
It's fucking with me.
Oh my goodness.
So let's get started. Oh, should I have described the card? I'll post it, but I don't know if we really, we kind of hinted that it was Santa Claus. So it's a sleigh, basically, with the reindeer pulling it.
Yeah.
And we'll post a photo of it. But,
yeah,
so
you're going to
gross.
have to see it to really...
Because he a bad Santa.
He is a very bad Santa. He's the worst Santa I've ever seen.
That little tidbit just...
I really hate that.
It's so gross.
Okay. All right. So we've got the Ten of Wands.
Ten of Wands. It's a beautiful woman carrying 10 really, really long wands. Looking like she's trying to make one trip only.
Yeah.
Through the desert.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. I swear I'm going to turn to the page and I will read it.
Do you think people have noticed how you're just always reading now and I'm not?
I don't know. Do you want to read?
No.
You don't want to.
Because people say I sound like a first grader.
Oh, the most adorable first grader. I'm failing to see why that's necessary or something people say, but
because they're mean and they're bullies.
I agree. Okay, so 10 of Wands, our keywords are responsibility, strength, commitment, maturity, burdens, exhaustion. The 10 of Wands shows you assuming responsibilities related to the new cycle that's beginning now. Although the task facing you seems more than you can bear, you have the strength to carry on and shoulder the burdens placed on you. Sometimes this card indicates exhaustion from taking on too much and pushing yourself too hard. Oh, we've got a little excerpt. Okay, so this is overburdened. This is from biddytarot.com.
Ooh.
Offers a nice interpretation of the image on this card in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The 10 of Wands shows a man carrying a heavy bundle of wands or sticks. He appears to be overburdened with the weight, yet he knows he is not far away from the town he is walking towards. This card appears to indicate someone who has just finished a harvest and is struggling to bring the fruits of his labors to the local market. I hate this. I hate that. What? I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. Okay. Upright. The 10 of Wands suggests you've overextended yourself and you're weary from the effort. I think of this as the carrying the world on your shoulders card. You may need to set boundaries or find a different way of handling the responsibilities you're struggling with. Are you carrying burdens that don't really belong to you? Where can you turn for help? Are you unwilling to give up control and stop insisting on doing everything yourself? In a reading about money, you may feel a pinch from taking on heavy obligations or supporting other people. Perhaps you've made unwise decisions and gotten into debt, or you may be staggering under the responsibilities of handling money, such as settling an estate.
Uh-oh. She's making the faces.
I don't like it. In a reading about work, this card suggests you've undertaken too much and you're burning out. Maybe you're working overtime or assuming someone else's duties as well as your own. In a reading about love, the 10 means taking a mature, responsible attitude toward a relationship. A card of commitment, it sometimes means supporting a partner through a difficult time. I mean, there's definitely a lot of burden and exhaustion. Oh my gosh, that extra excerpt is really going to be, that's really going to play a role in this. I hate it. I hate it.
Okay.
Did I mention that I hate it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think you did.
Okay. Just so we're clear on...
once or twice.
Yeah, just on that particular fact. All right, well, that's our tarot. We'll get back to the interpretation after the case, but oh wow, what a time.
I can't wait to figure out what it means.
I need some more wine. All right, that's the end of the fun.
No more fun.
Yeah,
because it's Caitlin's day. I'm just really getting on you, aren't I?
You're like, I don't even like her.
What's wrong with me today? I'm being so rude.
You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm just kidding.
Feel free to give it right back.
Yeah. You know, actually, I think that part 2 of this case is just going to do all that it's going to do a real number on you. So,
oh, no.
I guess that's payback. It wasn't like I intended it that way.
Because part 1 was just so uplifting.
I know. Yeah, it's going to take a real turn.
Great.
Cool. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. We can watch Practical Magic after this.
Can we just do it right now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, we're getting to it.
Okay.
We do this every week. We're like, let's talk about anything else. Now, if you'll remember where we left off previously, Bruce McArthur had a defenseless man restrained in his bed. But thankfully for this man, it also happened to be at the time of his arrest in January of 2018. So, like, really clutch timing.
Oh.
Whoa. So John, it seems, we're going to learn a little bit about him. Not a ton, because he's like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Right? No, why would you?
No, he's like, I'll see myself out.
Yeah.
Thank you. He had been an ongoing casual hookup partner of McArthur. John was a married man, this marriage being to a woman who it seems was unaware of certain aspects of his sexual preferences. So John was engaging in closeted sexual relationships with other men. That would have been a really awkward way to find out that your husband was enjoying the company of other men. I think.
Yeah. It's pretty intense.
Yeah. I mean, really sad, but oof. When he met with McArthur on this particular fateful day in January, Bruce said he wanted to try something different. To which I say, no thanks.
Why?
Right? I mean, lots of follow-up questions on that. So now before he knows it, John is handcuffed to the bed and McArthur is leaving the room, which I have and most certainly will continue to have nightmares about now. Because, okay, you can tell me if you think I'm crazy here, but there's something so unsettling to me about being restrained in any fashion, which I'll let you guys unpack that on your own time, how much of a control freak that might make me.
Same. I can't do it. No.
But then your captor leaves the room?
No.
No. Like, I'm not here to yuck your yum by any means, but this is just never going to be my cup of tea. And then there's more than one movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where someone's spouse leaves them chained to a bed under various circumstances. And I don't know if you know this, none of them are Disney movies.
No. Far from it.
Ooh. Not any rom-coms that feature the PG-13 consensual sex scenes we're all accustomed to. No, not that kind of movie.
You're talking about Gerald's Game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I read the book first. Oh my God. It's terrifying, but they did a really good job with the movie. Like, it's just as terrifying.
I haven't seen it because just the trailer, like,
oh my God,
ruins me.
Oh my God.
But you know what I did think of immediately, and I know it's a little bit different, is the Megan Fox one, where she's handcuffed to him.
Yeah. Little different, but sort of the same, because they're both dead in the same room. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Either way, not feeling it.
Gross.
So even in a consensual way, I just cannot get on board now.
Make sure your phone is near you, like, because that guy,
it's a serious thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're trapped.
He could have a heart attack. He, she, anybody could die, and you're
stuck.
trapped, or someone could break in. My mind just goes for it. You guys.
Yeah, no, I just literally can't with this. I immediately am flashing to one of those scenes.
Wear your Apple Watch.
Oh, that's smart. I just got rid of my Apple Watch.
What?
I know. I wasn't really using it, so all the more reason to just stay away from this scenario.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't do it. So, but good and bad news here. McArthur comes back. So good. Maybe?
Probably not.
No, probably not. My notes literally say probably not. Unfortunately, the bad news is that he arrives bearing a black bag and places a black hood on John's head. Bad. This is bad.
That's horrific.
In case anyone is unclear.
Bad.
Naturally, John panics. He's struggling, trying to escape, essentially trying to teleport or otherwise yeet the fuck out of this situation. And there's about to be a John-shaped hole in the wall. He's out. But unlike the Roadrunner cartoons of your youth, John's pretty trapped. So McArthur then puts tape over his mouth.
No, he already has a bag on his head.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm literally sweating bullets and having a full-blown freak the fuck out emergency session. Well, then there's a knock at the door. And lucky for John, it is quite literally Lady Luck a-knockin'.
Oh, shit.
In the most on-the-nose, absolute nick-of-time instance I've ever heard of, McArthur answers the door to two detectives who have been surveilling his ass like he's T-Swift.
Wow.
These detectives, however, are not enthusiastic fans or crazed stalkers. They are on the clock, and wouldn't you know it, it's arrest your garbage motherfucking ass o'clock.
Oh, thank God. This is good, right?
Yeah.
This is where the story goes.
That's good, yeah. Things are gonna take a little bit.
That's it.
Yeah, okay. End of episode. Bye. It's been so nice talking to you guys. That same day, McArthur's arrest is already making the news, which JJ, if you recall, aka journalist Justin.
Yeah, JJ.
He catches wind of. He's been really sick and he was actually at home that day, but you better believe that he was at attention right quick. The Twitter sphere is alight with activity almost immediately, as the Twitter sphere does, you know?
The Twitter.
The Twitter. Yeah. Because sometimes we just combine words because it's faster.
It sounded good to me.
Yeah. So there was a press conference announcing the arrest literally that afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is like everything that was done in a big and public way like that or like quickly is like, oh, look, see, we're doing something. Congratulations.
Now.
Yeah. So authorities shared that the cause of death of Bruce McArthur's suspected victims was unknown and no bodies had been found at that time. But as it so often happens, lurid details would begin to emerge as investigators began to release more of their findings. Eventually, everyone would learn that there were many instances of misconnections that seemingly could have been found to put an end to the disappearances much earlier. For instance, Skanda, who was literally the first man to go missing, had dated McArthur.
So, like, he should have been really top on their list of
Yeah, I mean,
people to look at.
maybe he wouldn't have been a suspect initially, but they questioned him so casually. I mean, he definitely should have been a quote-unquote person of interest. Like,
Yeah.
so as we know, McArthur was only ever interviewed as a witness, despite the misgivings of Skanda's friends about the nature of their relationship. They were also friends on Facebook. Investigators would also find that Skanda had a deleted email contact, silverfox51 at hotmail.com.
Oh
Gmail
my God.
which was linked to Bruce McArthur.
Freaking, I can't with that name. Like
Silverfox51.
Silverfox
And Hotmail.
51 at Hotmail. That's a red flag if I'm a rad flag. What?
I think you said red.
Red flag.
Red. It's a red flag. It's just, wow. It's a sign of the times. Bruce really aged himself right there.
Man.
But this same email address was also found recorded in a notebook in Basir's home. When Basir and Skanda's contact lists were cross-referenced, this was one of only 2 contacts that they had in common.
Wow.
This same email address was also the one used for Bruce McArthur's profile on an online dating site that both men used. Now, as standalone bits and pieces of information, it doesn't seem like much. But when they're eventually added up, certainly aspects of the case start to make more sense. Now, you might recall that I said Bruce McArthur had a record in Versadex for a previous violent crime that we would come back to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here I am. Can't call me a liar because we're about to talk about it. Actually, we're going to dig into more than one before we check back in with the authorities. So,
Dang.
keeping in mind that these are just the documented instances. So, as we continue to unpack the vast expanse of Bruce McArthur's evil fuckery, just, documented. Doesn't mean we've got everybody covered here. So, Bruce McArthur took his victims' lives into his own hands, some suffering a terrible death at his hands, but there are others that served as what should have been seen as warning signs. The fact that the mounting number of missing persons cases went unsolved for so long would be a lasting stain on the police force. When all is said and done, left standing, if a bit traumatized, battered, and bruised, are the ones that got away. So today we're going to share their incredibly harrowing stories of survival. Some of these stories would be unearthed as the investigation began to get more serious, only further highlighting the serious shortcoming of the police force that was charged to protect and serve. Yet, as remarkable as each of these stories really are, I think there's sort of a tendency to gloss over their experiences in the telling and retelling of these true crime tales all too often, which I think is really sad. I mean, ultimately, by surviving, it's like their stories are we kind of sweep over them a little bit.
I feel like they're just as important.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, especially in this instance where it's like, this was everything that you needed to know in order to know exactly what kind of a person Bruce was. Missed some red flags there. So, through various source material, I realized there were multiple cases where Bruce had victims that had survived one of his early violent attacks. And ultimately, these men likely really, really narrowly escaped a gruesome death. And it's difficult to tell how many stories there are in this case. Most share some similarities, but because they're typically identified using an alias to protect their identity, and who can blame them, not all of the source material seems to refer to them using the same alias, though.
Okay.
So what happens is, you're referencing different books and a ton of different news articles over the, last 10 years, 15 years, whatever. It's hard to identify, are they talking about the same person? But so I've done my best to parse them all out to share, just based on some of the unique details provided, because across all of the different sources, I did see that there were a couple of specific stories that even if they used a different alias, enough of the details were like they matched up so perfectly that it's like, okay,
so this has to be that person.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was.
Oh, man.
I felt like I was in that scene of A Beautiful Mind where he's got bored. It was a challenge, but
she did all the work for us. Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah. Yeah, in this case, that was a really tough part. I didn't expect that. So, like the victims that weren't initially even reported missing, in some of these stories, we don't have solid dates to connect these occurrences to. But wherever I've got that information, wherever I could, I have inserted that wherever possible. So just another thing that makes it difficult to be sure of, like, is this a different story? Like, I don't have a date.
Oh, gosh.
So.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Okay. And Cassie, I'm really sorry.
What?
Because I'm going to majorly yuck up your favorite holiday a bit for a minute here.
Halloween?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
On Halloween 2001, Mark Henderson was arriving home at his apartment building and held the door open for none other than Bruce McArthur.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Yeah, don't hold the door.
Gosh, I was always shocked because I cleaned houses a lot, so
Yeah.
we'd have to go and do a lot of apartments. And every time someone would hold the door open for me,
totally
I'm like,
defeats
can
the
you not do
purpose.
that? Like, what do you do? I have a key,
you
but
shouldn't
still.
do that. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, it's super frustrating. Mark was said to have invited McArthur into his apartment to see his Halloween costume, which I was like, oh God. The level of enthusiasm for the Halloween holiday. I was like, oh, this is crushing me.
I know.
Like,
I want to see
no.
your costume.
Yeah. But as he was unlocking his apartment door, McArthur attacked him with an iron pipe.
Oh.
Henderson fought back, but eventually lost consciousness because somebody's hitting him with an iron pipe.
No shit.
Yeah. By some miracle, he did eventually regain consciousness and he called 911. He was quickly rendered treatment for the injuries to both his body and his head, including several stitches. So once he was released from the hospital, his injuries would still require several weeks of physical therapy following that incident. And this is where the whole thing honestly gets a little weird. McArthur turned himself in to police following the attack.
Huh. That's really weird.
Yeah. It gets weirder. Bruce is so fucking weird. He claimed to have no memory of the attack or recollection as to why he would have lashed out so violently. Yeah, I forget all the time when I just brutally attack people with an iron pipe.
Well, like he went into the building
Like you're
with
literally
the pipe?
seeking him out.
Like,
yeah.
That's, yeah.
Seeing some holes in that
Right.
story, right?
That's kind of where I was trying to go, but my
Yeah.
brain wouldn't get the words out.
I know, because you're like, what? Like this information just clashes with everything that my brain understands. So, according to his pre-sentencing psych report, there were no signs of a personality disorder or dementia. Basically anything that would have possibly explained his sudden and complete lack of memory. However, Bruce claimed the violent outburst must have been due to his combination of his anti-seizure medication and amyl nitrate, which is a muscle relaxer,
Ooh.
often referred to as a popper, that is sometimes taken recreationally before sex.
A
So-
popper.
Why are you walking into this man that you don't really know, his building, and you've already got this in your system? He was not using it as a muscle relaxer.
Oh, God.
Like,
No.
Bruce, we don't buy it.
That's disgusting.
So here's the thing is this is what would eventually become known as the epilepsy defense. So this is something that has come up, I don't know how many cases, but it has come up in other cases. So the epilepsy defense, as it has been coined, has largely been debunked in medical and legal circles because, duh, like being epileptic doesn't make you violent. Like that's totally been disproven. And this anti-seizure medication doesn't make you violent. Like it's just it's a crock of shit.
It's a crock full of load of shit.
It's a loaded crock of shit. That's what that is. McArthur pleaded guilty to charges of assault with a weapon and assault causing bodily harm in April of 2003. This attack happened on Halloween in 2001, and he's literally pleading guilty to charges in April of 2003.
Oh, wow.
Which feels like it's a long time, but that's actually, it's not that unusual for like a legal proceeding like this.
Wow. Was he in jail the whole time or was he out?
You know, I'm not sure.
I don't
To
know how
be
that kind of
honest,
stuff works, honestly.
Yeah, I would think for a violent crime like this, they would typically seek remand, but I don't know. And there's really no way to know. With some of these things, we'll get there. And if I don't bang my head up against the wall and lose consciousness, I'll share it with you.
Okay.
So he received a conditional sentence of 729 days, which is 2 years less a day. I fucking don't get it. I just don't get it. Not even a full 2 years.
That's crazy. Like, they couldn't even just tack on one more day.
Yeah, they're like, 2 years might be pushing it. Let's do 2 years less a day.
Oh my God.
Just doesn't make any sense. So McArthur ultimately avoided incarceration altogether, though.
Wow.
He spent the first year of his sentence under house arrest, which obviously is a whole lot less than 2 years. A whole year less than 2 years. His house arrest was followed up by a 6-month curfew and 3 months of probation. My response to that is, I feel like there are teenagers that have received a harsher grounding than that.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is that?
God.
Like a 6-month curfew and probation. Okay, yeah.
You can't hurt anyone before curfew ends, you know?
Right. No. Oh, it just makes me so mad. So there were other restrictions during the sentence in a number of forms, but honestly, they sound like kind of duh things for me. Like, he had to stay away from the LGBT-oriented area known as Church and Wesley in Toronto, with the exception of when it was for work or medical appointments. Lots of loopholes. He had to stay at least 10 meters or 33 feet from the victim's home or workplace, which, yes, please, for the love of fuck, stay away from his work and home. Like, what?
Please don't even be 33 feet away. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Like, literally be 33,000 feet away from him at minimum at all times. Please? Lastly, for his about town restrictions, McArthur could not spend time with male prostitutes.
Oh my gosh.
Which,
we have no words for this. Isn't it already illegal, or was it not illegal?
so Canada actually has some kind of bizarre rules around prostitution and sex work. In most of the statutes, it's, you're going to hear it referred to as prostitution. We say sex work typically on this podcast, but the way that it works is it's decriminalized for the sex workers, but technically for the people that are utilizing the services, like, they can still be charged.
Wow.
So I think perhaps that's why it was added as kind of a condition of his probation. There are just no words. I can't with this. There were some other conditions that were kind of just, I think these are pretty typical for Canada. I don't think you would hear about necessarily this unless you commit really high level felonies here in the US. McArthur was also forbidden to possess firearms for 10 years.
Oh, just 10 years.
Yeah. So after that, I'm sure you learned your lesson. He was not to purchase, possess, or consume drugs without a medical prescription. And specifically, he should not possess poppers. I mean, again, it just kind of seems like a duh, but okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of the prescription, is that the substance is supposed to be controlled in some form or fashion. So yeah, you shouldn't have it if you don't have a prescription for it. But it's fine.
The stuff you have to write down these days.
Really? Oh, wow. He was required to submit his DNA to a database and also undergo psychiatric treatment, including anger management.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think it worked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Later, a criminal defense lawyer would reflect that the listed conditions of his release were uncommon and suggested that the judge was concerned that McArthur was a danger to all male sex workers. Also, because duh,
Why is he out?
Yeah. I'm like, if that's what the judge thinks, why are we not maybe gonna hold him in custody for a while longer? Like,
Oh,
can
man.
does anybody else want to do something differently here?
I hope.
No, don't worry though. It actually gets worse.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. So in 2014, McArthur was granted a record suspension. Stateside, we call that getting your record expunged.
Expunged.
Yeah. So that means it won't appear in criminal background checks.
Why, though? I don't understand. You did something really naughty. People should know about it.
Yeah. They really should. I mean, especially the police.
Yeah. That would have been helpful, a little later on, having that in his record.
I think the argument could be made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but that's not it. Most records and exhibits were destroyed in 2010 in compliance with Toronto Police Service retention policy. So it was expunged, but there's literally no surviving record of it at all. You can't even go to an archive and be like, okay, this was expunged, but here's the official paperwork.
How do they know about it?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Maybe somebody interviewed the judge that initially charged him. Or they talked to Mark. I don't know. I have a lot of questions. Canada, I have a lot of questions. So, in an interview years later, Mark would state, I didn't know that he had been pardoned, which meant that everything that happened to me in the eyes of the law didn't exist.
Wow. That's bullshit.
I was just like,
because you did it.
Yeah.
You did it.
It really happened. Yeah. What happened to Mark is real, but on paper, it's like it never happened. I can't even imagine.
I can't imagine being brutally attacked and my attacker doesn't get shit.
Yeah.
Like, how do you live life after that?
Lucky for Mark.
Bang.
Lucky for Mark, he didn't know about McArthur having his record put aside until after the news broke about all of the murders.
Oh my God. He didn't know the whole time.
He had no idea. Can you imagine? You are the victim of a violent crime and you have no idea that the offender has had their clean slate wiped clean.
Wow.
I was like, I'm so fucking angry. I'm shaking. When I was reading that, I was just like, what is happening up there? I mean, not that it's a lot better down here.
No, but
trust. Okay, we got some issues down here, but it didn't really take long after being granted the record suspension for McArthur to make it abundantly clear that he really shouldn't have been given another chance. Anybody else see that coming? We've got another promo roll that we are really excited to share today.
Hey there, I'm Emily.
I'm Tori.
And I'm Lindsay.
And we're the hosts of Three's a Crime, a bi-weekly true crime podcast that touches on all your traditional favorite crimey-wimey things, but we also cover crimes that inspired movies and TV shows and cases specific to our hometown of Spokane, Washington, and cases all around the Pacific Northwest. Catch our new episodes every other Wednesday wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Your world can change in the blink of an eye.
He walked into the bedroom and you know that she had been murdered.
So he's running up and down, screaming, oh my God, someone call 911. There are two men killing a girl.
I know my son, and he would not go that long without saying anything to anyone.
Safety can be an illusion and reality a nightmare.
So how do you steal a person, a grown person?
Unspeakable crimes can penetrate any small town, big family, pretty face, or innocent child. And in the wake of a loved one's murder or disappearance, there is nothing more cruel or desperate as silence.
Why won't people talk about it? That's another thing. People don't want to talk about it around here.
For the families of the missing and murdered, they gambled with their sanity as they lose hope in closure and settle for justice. That's where the cold case playing cards come in. In each episode of the Dealing Justice podcast, your hosts Jennifer Dubasek and Lori Jennings will spotlight one card from the cold case playing card deck. Hear the victim's story from the friends and family who knew them best.
Her mom will never stop fighting until she finds out what happens to her daughter.
Learn about the crime and help close the case. Welcome to Season 2. We're not just playing cards, we're dealing justice.
You guys, we're back! It seems like this man attempted to keep his identity under wraps. So this is the second story that we're going to talk about. Because obviously Mark, the first gentleman that we've talked about here, we know a little bit more about him. But our source material calls this next man Matt, and we will as well. In June of 2016, Bruce McArthur was arrested for attacking a man that was probably best described as a casual sexual hookup partner. He had become frustrated by McArthur's clingy and unusual tendencies and was actually intending to meet him in person in order to break things off.
Oh.
They met at a Tim Hortons in a somewhat isolated area near the highway. Guys, stop going to isolated areas near the highway.
Yeah. To just break up with somebody?
Uh-huh. Yeah, they were going to go into the Tim Hortons and have a cup of coffee. But whether you're breaking up with them or it's like somebody new that you're going on a first date with, like just do it directly under a streetlight.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this just...
Were they like trying not to be seen, you think, or?
Well, I mean, they were going to go into like a public space, essentially like a restaurant, a little cafe. I have not been to a Tim Hortons, so I'm not really sure.
Me neither.
Is it a restaurant, a cafe? Like what level of dining experience it is?
Horton, here's a who.
Yeah. They have green eggs and ham. But instead of going inside for coffee, as they had originally intended, McArthur beckoned Matt into his van.
Of course.
Don't ever get in the van.
Don't get in the van. Don't go alone. Don't go in the tunnel. And don't get in the fucking van.
Yeah. Hey, guys, if you get in the van, you're not going for a picnic.
Not the kind you want.
Ooh.
That's not what I meant.
This is not anyone's fault. Like any of these people, they didn't do anything to deserve this, but it does remind me that, in these situations, we don't automatically, think that some of these men they might not have felt as vulnerable as maybe a woman would meeting a man in this type of a setting, this type of a situation.
Especially someone you've been dating. I'm assuming you trust them to a certain degree. And
yeah, he really shouldn't trust McArthur at all. When I say that this guy was breaking up with him because he was starting to get clingy and he had some unusual tendencies, McArthur was just showing up at his house unannounced.
Oh, God.
And, just doing the typical, like, ooh, break up with that guy, creepy type of shit. So in the van, there they proceeded to have what started as a consensual sexual encounter. but it quickly escalated into a violent encounter. Matt was able to fight McArthur off and flee to his own vehicle from the van, where he actually called 911.
Oh, God.
The dispatcher discouraged him from pursuing McArthur in his van as he fled. Because, of course, as soon as Matt gets out, McArthur's like, that's him pulling out of the parking lot. He was like, peace. Though he would give a statement to the police, he did not know Bruce's last name. This is where things really began to unravel, though, just extremely slowly. So remember from episode 1 how I told you that police had already zeroed in on a specific type of van that they suspected was connected to the man that they believed was responsible for the missing men in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right. It was one of 6,181 vans, to be more specific, that matched an initial vague description of a vehicle following a violent attack, like the one we just talked about. Then it turned out there were only 5 registered to a man named Bruce. Again, they didn't have a last name for Berserker Bruce, but luckily there was only one 2004 Dodge Caravan that was a 20th anniversary edition.
Ooh.
Registered to a man named Bruce. Whatever. Well, I'm not a betting woman, but I don't think I need to worry in this case. Thanks in part to surviving witness Matt, the cops were closing in because they're like, what do you think the chances are that there's like a different Bruce that also, literally there's 0 chance because, fucking Bruce. You and your fancy ass van.
Bruce and his chariot.
Yeah. Seriously. Oh my gosh. Another alleged victim came forward that simply hadn't been believed even after Bruce McArthur's arrest. Now, I could see why they might not be considered the most credible. Even JJ, as much as we love him, we've really grown to love and respect journalist Justin. He was somewhat skeptical of this person's account, but he was able to speak with mutual friends of this man and Bruce that lent his story some serious credence. So we're on to number 3.
Oh, wow.
If Mark and Matt's stories didn't make it clear in the first place why we should believe and support victims of violent and, of course, also crimes of a sexual nature, like, I just literally don't know what will. All right, number 4. Another man, we'll call him Sean, began to see a creepy sexual experience that he had with McArthur some years prior in an even darker light after being asked some, let's call them, unsettling questions by police through the course of their investigation. Sean had what started as a consenting BDSM encounter with McArthur, but he was incapacitated by GHB. Now, he was aware that he had ingested the drug. He actually requested it to try and relax and enjoy the experience, which I will never understand because I literally can't even imagine taking it recreationally.
I don't know what it is. I was going to ask.
Oh, okay. So GHB is kind of the abbreviation of the chemical name for roofies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why don't they call them flories?
Exactly. Because you will literally not be able to pull yourself up off the floor. It is miserable. Having been dosed and been like violently ill. Yeah.
Shit.
Oh, yeah. And you know, like at this point in my life, I've talked to a number of friends, and it's interesting how many times I've talked to a guy friend who like switched drinks with like a female friend, or he grabbed a shot and somebody was like, oh, that's hers.
Oh.
Like they buy a round of shots and they're like, oh, no, you take this one. and then they end up getting roofied.
Jesus Christ.
I have never, and God, Allah, Tom Cruise, Oprah, Will Ferrell, will never be that sick again in my life. I could not hold down water. I was literally trying to drink water to rehydrate and immediately vomiting it up.
Oh my God.
I do not understand how anyone can take this recreationally. I don't know. Maybe it's like mushrooms and you can microdose. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't understand this. Here we go. So here's where things take a turn. Sean says that McArthur ignored his limits, his safe words, and in this vulnerable state, he was powerless to stop McArthur. He lost consciousness. Lucky for Sean, McArthur's roommate came home unexpectedly and he stumbled on home. So Sean's like, okay, seems like your roommate's home. I will get out of your hair.
Oh.
See you later. Realizing on reflection later that he had no recollection of how he made it home, which you will not remember where you were for hours.
Wow.
You will just have a blank black spot in your memory.
That is so scary.
It's truly horrifying. And in this instance, obviously, he was in a very dangerous situation. So police located photos of him in McArthur's home. Yikes.
Ooh.
Even worse, though, Sean only learned of the photos when the police contacted him the day after McArthur's arrest to ask about their interaction. Their questioning about whether he had noticed any cameras in McArthur's home was apparently just indelicate enough that it tipped him off unintentionally to how vulnerable he had really been. From their questions, Sean would have the startling realization that McArthur had photographed him bound in what was described as a kill position.
Ew.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm sure what I'm picturing is not even accurate nope, not going there. That's another picture
like
I'm not
when
Googling.
you tie up a hog to a stick and roast it. That's literally what I'm picturing.
Exactly what I'm picturing too. And I'm like, that can't be right, but maybe I don't. Nope.
Please, nobody tell us. Thank you.
Seriously. All right. Well, this seems like just as good a time as any to check back with JJ and the authorities to hear a bit more about the investigation. There's an interesting pattern that was established regarding the disappearances. What investigators would learn is that it was fairly significant that these men disappeared over long holiday weekends or in the summer months. Bruce McArthur would take the opportunity to commit the majority of his crimes when one wealthy client, in particular, was on a holiday or on vacation at their second home. Why, you ask? You're going to really regret asking.
He's Gardner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could easily dispose of his victims' bodies by dismembering them and placing their bodies in these people's oversized planters.
In the planters?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Can you imagine being those people?
Yeah. Apparently, at least at the time that Justin wrote his book, they still lived there.
I mean, I don't think I'd move out, but I would be really grossed out. I mean, hopefully they would have taken all of the...
I just don't... I don't know. I don't know if I could live there anymore. Yeah, so picture, though, it's... like, you know how you have those, like, potted plants? They're, like, gigantic because he's putting humans in them.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't want to process.
You're like talking to the gardener and he's like convincing you. No, you need the extra large planters. They would look really good Oh my God.
So he was placing their bodies in these oversized planters while the customer was out of town, and obviously they would be none the wiser.
Ugh, that's so gross.
Yeah. Investigators searched well over 75 properties that Bruce McArthur's landscaping business, Artistic Design, had serviced. Additionally, his business partner and his current boyfriend at the time, their properties were searched. Apparently, his boyfriend was majorly shook.
Yeah.
He's like, please don't find any bodies on my property.
God.
They would find several bodies in various stages of decomp at a single property.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given the time of year and the frosty northern conditions, the police actually had to heat some of the grounds under a tent in order to be able to examine areas of interest.
Wow.
So they were using basically imaging to be able to see, like, is there anything like buried here? And then they would have to go around the property and pop up this tent and heat the grounds to be able to, explore that a little bit further.
Wow. Just wow. I've been saying wow a lot. But
Yeah.
Wow. Seriously.
Just wow. So police would later refer to the efforts as the largest forensic investigation in their history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about time, if I'm being honest. Now, what JJ wasn't expecting, even as some of this came to light through press conferences and official information releases, was that he would be touring those grounds with a bunch of other journalists, reporters, and cameramen. At the property in question, remains of multiple victims had been recovered from the large planters. This was all part of an effort to make sure they had left no stone unturned. Probably literally, given the nature of the disposal in this case.
Oh, God.
Of course, in light of so many earlier failures on the part of law enforcement, they couldn't simply just enact these steps. They really needed to do it very publicly. So JJ and several other journalists were escorted around the property where multiple bodies had been found in those planters, and they were actually allowed beyond the yellow crime scene tape to see the investigators' excavation work as part of the forensic investigation.
Okay, I lied. I don't think I could live there.
Yeah.
After that's going on in your yard for however long.
Mm-hmm. For a while. He was arrested in January. I'm going to give you another date that will let you know about how long these people's lives were just like an absolute zoo on their property. Holding onto a rope that had been tied off to a tree, it basically gave them all some kind of like anchoring and balance as they scaled down the side of the hill down into the ravine on the property. There were something like 20 police officers in an assembly line sifting through the soil. It was explained that the ravine is where Bruce McArthur had composted the contents of the planters when the perennials were swapped out for new seasonal plants.
What?
So, on July 26th of 2018, authorities announced that Hamid's remains were found in the ravine.
Just switched out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Gotta swap out these plants. I'm not so sure that it had that much to do with the plants.
Yeah.
It was shared at that time that the authorities believed there were no other victims based on their investigation up to that point, but the cold cases were still under review. Make a big show of it, guys. It's a little late. Just over a year after his arrest, McArthur pleaded guilty to 8 counts of first-degree murder. He is serving. He is currently serving, guys. He's not out. He is serving 8 concurrent life sentences. Now, just quickly popping over for a stateside visit while we're on the topic of sentencing. Popping. Because I feel like it's important, though, that in this particular case, that we understand the term concurrent. And I happen to have found a link to our neck of the woods, Cassie.
Ooh,
yeah. So I'm not going to apologize, but I'm going to take you guys through criminal sentencing 101.
Oh, great.
Or maybe this is 201. Either way, you should know better, guys. We've already talked about this. I had that application ready to go for law school. So what? Like it's hard?
Okay, Legally Blonde.
I know. I was like, I'll pause briefly for those of you that are getting the joke and laughing. So I can be dogged in my research when I'm hyper-focused, but I like using it in this application far too much now to ever think of switching it up. So don't worry, I'm not going to law school. Let's be real, my ADHD ass would make a mess of some of those briefs. If you think about it, I've just chosen to use my powers for good instead of evil. So
I think it'd be pretty cool if you were a lawyer.
I think so too. I do think that there would be some official court filings that might have some typos. You know when they talk about those administrative errors?
Yeah.
It's not what you want, guys.
No.
A concurrent sentence refers to a type of sentence judges are able to give defendants convicted of more than one crime, like 8 counts of first-degree murder. Instead of serving each sentence one after another, a concurrent sentence allows the defendant to serve all of their sentences at the same time.
But why? Don't we want him in jail as long as possible?
Yeah, just like until he finally fucking keels over.
Like, look what he did. How is that not logical? Am I missing something?
No. So there is a little caveat to that.
Okay.
So it allows them to serve all of their sentences at the same time, where the longest period of time is controlling. But since there are 8 counts of the same crime, I don't understand.
So how long is it? Are you going to get there? I don't like when you do that evil cackle, like you know it's bad.
It's not great. We'll talk.
Okay.
So this is where I'm going to get into kind of the case law with it just a little bit. In Oregon v. ICE, the Supreme Court held that states could give judges the discretion to decide whether a convicted defendant will serve a concurrent or a consecutive sentence. There are some cases in which the judge will have no discretion in this manner because a state law may require a consecutive sentence. A few years after the Supreme Court decision in Oregon v. ICE, Congress passed 18 U.S. Code 3584, which provides judges discretion to decide whether the sentences will run consecutively or concurrently. The statute also states that the default rule is for concurrent sentences, unless the state statute calls for consecutive sentences or the judge finds a consecutive sentence would be the best outcome in the case. If a person is convicted of attempting to commit a crime and actually committing the crime, then the judge will be restricted from giving the defendant a consecutive sentence. So, stay with me. For example, someone who has, been sentenced for attempted murder and murder can't serve a consecutive sentence. Because essentially what that would do is charge you with 2 crimes for the same crime. You'd get 2 charges for 1 crime.
I'm confused.
So if you kill somebody, we can't charge you with both attempted murder and then murder.
So why'd they do that?
sorry. So what happens in some cases is, like if we go back to the Malala Forest killer, we had a victim that initially survived. She was rushed to the hospital from the Denny's parking lot and later died at the hospital. They can't charge Dayton Leroy Rogers, that piece of shit, with attempted murder for trying to kill her. And then once she dies, also then charge him with that. And then they can't make him serve the time for both of those crimes.
But why wouldn't they just charge him with murder?
I don't know if that was a common practice at some point. But here's the thing is basically in essence, they're trying to keep you from stacking. They don't want people to be able to be put away for, a crazy period of time for something that you're like, this is one crime. But
it's murder.
Right. In this case, not great.
Not like, I totally get for like other types of
for
crimes.
nonviolent offenses.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah. So the statute also provides a list of factors judges should consider when determining what sentence to give defendants. Now, obviously, that's here in Oregon. That's based on, our case law. This happened in Canada, but whether you're in the U.S. or in Canada, concurrent versus consecutive means the same thing in terms of your sentencing. Those terms are the same, regardless of the border. I don't understand. Why would you allow him to serve for 8 first-degree murders?
That you chopped up and buried in people's gardens. Like, you don't deserve to walk around ever again.
So here's the thing is I had the exact same reaction as you. Like, well, wait, why wouldn't they just charge him with murder? And I'm like, oh, wait, I get it now. Why? What? No. There's no words. There's no words. It's charge him with 800 consecutive.
Yeah. Jeez.
I hate it. And here's the thing is probably in an instance where you've commit that many first degree murders, you're never getting out. Okay. And so maybe it doesn't end up mattering that much because it's largely like ceremonial or, it's what's on paper.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care. I really just want everything in relation to Bruce McArthur to just say, lock him up, throw away the key, and then light that bitch on fire.
Please.
I mean, but I have no strong thoughts or feelings on the topic. So, in closing, I'll leave you with this. The Toronto Police Service receives over 4,000 missing persons reports each year. You wouldn't know it based on this case, but most are resolved within a few days. According to the website Ontario's Missing Adults, missing men are taken less seriously as we tend to think they can take care of themselves. But as one of the victim impact statements read in court by Salim Essen's family and friends read, this man took his time to plan and preyed on the gay community's trust and vulnerability of innocent people one after the other. I think it's worth remembering that we should never take for granted that anyone can fall victim to a devious man like Bruce. And I hate hearing concurrent attached to his sentencing. I really do. So that's all I got, guys. Look out for each other out there, creepy people.
Yeah, everybody. Men can get birdies too. They're not limited to only women.
It's true.
Get a birdie alarm.
They come in so many colors.
That was really shitty. I did not mean for that to be like an ad. Like,
oh.
I meant for like people to be safe. I know it kind of sounded like I was trying to push.
Well, I think it's a good example though, where it's like we jump to like, oh, a woman. So like, yeah, it makes sense. She'll carry mace. She'll carry a birdie.
Yeah.
She'll have, self-defense training or whatever. But it's like, why don't we think about the safety of, men?
Yeah.
I get that homicide rates for women, they're much higher,
For sure.
But anybody can be, a victim of a crime when they feel like they're in a safe place and somebody takes advantage of that vulnerability. And I fucking hate that.
I know, it's so shitty.
So angry.
Why do some people suck so hard?
I don't know. And you know what really irks me now is remembering the tarot card.
Oh, yeah.
The creepy Santa.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember, creepy. What made you want to pull up the chariot in your deck?
Oh, because I was listening to the description. So, once you hear the whole story, and then once you reread, the description of the card, kind of after it's had a chance to, settle in my brain.
Yeah.
And then I think, so it did say, a chariot pulled by mythical creatures.
Yeah.
And I was and then I was hearing the Santa stuff, and I was like, oh, that reminds me of reindeer. And I was like, I bet the chariot in that deck is going to be the sleigh, because what else would it be?
Yeah, it's the Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah. That actually really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But still,
it creeps me out.
I wish I would have realized it at the time, but that's why we for listener help too. If we don't say something in the card and you're obviously it relates to this and we're just not getting it.
Yeah.
Let us know. Message us, email us.
We've been known to be a little bit thick occasionally. It happens.
Sometimes. I literally can't talk.
I know, we're really we're losing it.
We've been talking all day.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say too. Oh, sometimes stuff takes a minute to hit in my brain too.
Yeah, and then you kind of feel the moment's gone.
Right.
Whatever. It wasn't that important.
When you're in an argument and you think of the perfect comeback an hour later, and you're like...
I hate it in an argument too, because I'm well, your face is stupid. And I'm like, yeah, good one, idiot. No, you always think of the best things to say afterwards.
Always.
Okay, so going back to the 10 of Wands that we drew for, this is actually for the second half of this case, because I'm going to post up pictures of the card that we drew today, and then I'll do a picture of the creepy Santa chariot card too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back to, I remember the excerpt is what really spoke to me. There's definitely some other pieces from the interpretation, but I'm going to go right back to the part that jumped out for me. So this is from the Biddy Tarot website.
I like that website.
Yeah, I do
Tarot
too.
Biddy.
So this is the interpretation of the image on the card based on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And it says, the 10 of Wands shows a man carrying a heavy bundle of wands or sticks. He appears to be overburdened with the weight, yet he knows he is not far away from the town he is walking towards. This card appears to indicate someone who has just finished a harvest and is struggling to bring the fruits of his labors to the local market.
Oh.
So kind of reflecting on this, like with literally just having finished up the case and really all of this being super fresh in our minds, this just makes me think like it's so representative of the physical effort of a lot of what went into like, oh, I mean, there's no good way to put it, you know, dismembering these men and, you know,
Oh, God.
hiding and disposing of their bodies and everything. And it's just in a really dark way. It's, I mean, even looking at this and the way that it describes, it says, he appears to be overburdened with the weight, yet he knows he is not far away from the town he is walking towards. And it's like, if he was doing this on this huge piece of property and he's lugging around people, these large planters, and then eventually he's like moving these and composting them in that ravine. I mean, just the physical aspect of that. I really hate that. I don't like it at all. And it's interesting because he definitely played the role of somebody who's like the dominant and the controlling partner in those BDSM encounters. And part of this card is, it says, are you unwilling to give up control?
Was this upright or reversed?
It was upright.
Okay.
So I think it's interesting too, because we did go on to read, like we always do, about, you know, the interpretation based on, you know, money, work, and love. And I didn't really think that I was going to see anything with kind of those bullet points initially, at least. But it says, in a reading about money, you may feel a pinch from taking on heavy obligations or supporting other people. Perhaps you've made unwise decisions and gotten into debt, or you may be staggering under the responsibilities of handling money, such as settling an estate. And I feel like this really kind of goes back to the first part of the case, but, you know, McArthur was somebody who was struggling with bankruptcy, you know, after divorcing his wife. And, you know, now he's trying to, you know, juggle with this business. And I don't know, it's really interesting because, I mean, definitely being somebody who owns a small business, it talks about at work. This card suggests you've undertaken too much and you're burning out. Maybe you're working overtime or assuming someone else's duties as well as your own. And I feel like you see, it's not that he's taking someone else's duties, but he's got like this daytime and then the nighttime aspect to his life. Because I'm sure that I could be wrong, but I don't think this was something he was doing in broad daylight, even if those people were out of town.
This kind of sort of reminds me too of like maybe the work, maybe that everyone was doing to solve the case, and they were so close to him like the whole entire time, but they were just not quite there.
You know what's interesting about this too is these don't just look like sticks. They have like vegetation. Like they have leaves actually growing off of them. They kind of look like plants. If you look at the physical representation of this, does this not look like a planter? And then this is like the plant growing out of it?
Yeah.
Which...
That's creepy.
Yeah. When I kind of put that together and I'm like, just the physical like shape of this, where you've got like this large kind of gathering of like the wands where it forms like it kind of looks like it could be a potted plant, like a very oversized planter, because
it's oversized.
Is like the same size as the person that's trying to carry it.
Gross.
Yeah. So,
well, are we done with him? Or do you have more?
Oh, I'm so beyond Bruce.
Well, not quite.
That's true. Oh my gosh, you guys, this seems like a good time to tell you. We have a very, 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 very exciting episode coming up. We are having DP guest on our show.
Dave and Paul.
We're
so excited.
I know. Oh, yeah. And also, I love that I just am like, DP, like, everybody just know who they are. Just love them as much as us. Just do it. Okay.
Do it already.
Yeah. They are from Disturbingly Pragmatic. Mm-hmm. So we're actually going to talk about this case a little bit. We'll talk about another true crime update. And then we have some other shenanigans. We're going to have some fun, actually.
So many shenanigans.
Hey, Farva, what's that place you like with all the goofy shit on the walls?
Shenanigans?
Oh. You can cut that out. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. What was I thinking? I wasn't.
You can quote, I know what it's called. Super Troopers. Anytime.
These snozzberries taste like snozzberries.
So
aren't those Canadian actors?
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, talk to you guys later. Bye. Who even knows what's happening anymore? We've been doing this for like 7 hours.
Yeah. So. Should we get out of here?
Probably. Let's go finish this wine.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think we have like one more thing to do.
Have a creepy ass day. See you next Tuesday.
So for all of you that are listening, if you have any true crime or paranormal stories that you want us to share, maybe with the whole Pacific Northwest.
Yes, we would love to read them on the pod.
Yes, we will read them out loud.
Not just in our heads.
Yes. They don't have to be from the Pacific Northwest if you would like to share. Email us at pnwhauntsandhomicides@gmail.com. It's all spelled out, no special characters. Super duper easy peasy.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Same thing as the email at pnwhauntsandhomicides, all spelled out, no special characters. Please also rate and review us on whatever platform you're listening to, and check out our stories on social media because our meme game is hot.
Agreed.
And if you agree, like Caitlin, you can also find us on Patreon and support the show.
Bitchin'. So, is there anything else that you talked to the creepy people about while I was gone?
We really decided a bunch of things, and I don't think it's appropriate to talk to you about it because it was kind of like a me, them.
It's like an A and B conversation, so I should see my way out. All right. Wow. All right. Well, don't let anyone tell you we don't have fun here.